A vast, wine-dark sea stretches endlessly beneath a merciless sun. Waves crash against floating wreckage, broken masts, torn sails, the shattered remains of what was once a mighty ship. Clinging to a piece of driftwood, barely conscious, a single man survives. His name is Odysseus, king of Ithaca, and he has been trying to return home for 10 long years. The war at Troy ended a decade ago. The Greeks won. The city burned. Heroes claimed their glory. But for Odysseus, victory brought only the beginning of suffering. The gods themselves conspired to keep him from home, from his wife Penelope, from his son Telemachus, who was an infant when he left for war. Now the boy is a man of 20, and Odysseus floats alone on the ocean, watching the sun set once more on another day lost to the sea. This is the story of the greatest journey ever told, not of conquest, but of survival, not of glory won, but of everything lost and painfully reclaimed. 10 years earlier, the wooden horse stood silent in the ashes of Troy. The war was won through Odysseus's cunning, a hollow horse filled with warriors, brought inside the gates by the Trojans themselves. When night fell, the Greeks emerged and destroyed the city from within. Odysseus and his men sailed from Troy's burning shores with 12 ships, filled with treasure and drunk on victory. They believed the journey home would take weeks. They could not have been more wrong. Their first stop was the land of the Cicons, where they raided for supplies. But celebration turned to slaughter. Odysseus ordered his men to leave, but they refused, feasting and drinking while the Cicons rallied their allies. By the time the Greeks fled, they had lost dozens of warriors. The gods were watching, and hubris would not go unpunished. Driven off course by divine winds sent by Poseidon, god of the seas, they landed on an island dominated by a massive cave. It was filled with sheep and stores of cheese, enough food to feed the crew for months. But the cave belonged to Polyphemus, a Cyclops the size of a mountain with a single eye burning in the center of his forehead. He was the son of Poseidon himself. When the giant returned and found Greeks in his cave, he sealed the entrance with a boulder no human could move. Then he began eating the men alive, grabbing them like grapes and crushing their bones between his teeth. Odysseus could not fight such a creature, but he could outwit it. He offered the Cyclops wine, strong, undiluted wine that made even giants drunk. When Polyphemus asked his name, Odysseus replied with cunning, "My name is nobody." That night, as the monster slept, Odysseus and his men heated a massive wooden stake in the fire until it glowed red. They drove it into the Cyclops' single eye. Polyphemus screamed loud enough to shake the mountain. His fellow Cyclopes came running, shouting through the stone walls, asking who attacked him. The blinded giant roared back, "Nobody. Nobody is killing me." His neighbors, confused, assumed he had gone mad and left. Odysseus and his men escaped by clinging to the bellies of the sheep when Polyphemus let them out to graze, his massive hands feeling only the wool above, not the men hidden below. It was perfect. It was brilliant. They reached their ships and pushed off from the shore. And then pride destroyed everything. Standing at the stern of his ship, unable to resist, Odysseus shouted his true name across the water. "I am Odysseus, son of Laertes, sacker of cities." Polyphemus, blind and raging, prayed to his father Poseidon for vengeance. The god of the seas answered. From that moment, Odysseus was cursed to wander, to suffer, to lose everything before he could ever reach home. They sailed to the land of the Lotus Eaters, a gentle people who offered them a flower that erased all pain, all memory, all desire. Odysseus watched his warriors eat the lotus and forget their wives, their children, their very names. They smiled vacant smiles and spoke of staying forever in this land without suffering. Odysseus dragged them back to the ships by force, binding them to the masts as they wept and begged to return. A leader does not follow desire. He resists it. Next came the island of Aea, home to the sorceress Circe. She welcomed the Greeks with wine and honeyed words. The men drank, and they transformed, squealing, crawling on all fours. their minds trapped in the bodies of pigs. When Odysseus came searching for his crew, Circe tried the same trick. But the goddess Athena had given him protection, a sacred flower called moly that made him immune to enchantment. He drew his sword. Circe had never met a mortal who could resist her power. Fascinated rather than afraid, she yielded and restored his men to human form. She kept Odysseus for a year, neither prisoner nor guest, but something more complex. When he finally prepared to leave, she spoke a terrible truth. He could not return home until he walked among the dead. He must sail to the edge of the world, to the land where the sun never rises, and enter the underworld itself. At the world's end, Odysseus performed the ancient ritual, spilling blood into the earth to summon the spirits of the dead. Shadows rose around him, heroes he had fought beside at Troy, his mother who had died waiting for his return, great kings and forgotten warriors, all reduced to whispers and regret. The prophet Tiresias appeared and spoke prophecy. Odysseus would reach Ithaca, but not as he hoped. He would arrive alone, on a stranger's ship. His house would be filled with men who sought to replace him. His wife would be besieged. His son would be in danger. Before he could reclaim what was his, he would face a final trial of violence. The dead offered wisdom, but they could not offer hope. Every mile home would be paid for in blood. The ships sailed on through waters cursed by gods and haunted by monsters. They approached the island of the Sirens, creatures whose voices promised everything a man could desire: knowledge, glory, understanding, love, immortality itself. Odysseus knew no man who heard their songs survived, so he ordered his crew to fill their ears with wax and bind him to the mast. He commanded them to ignore every order he gave once the singing began. The sea grew deathly still. Then the voices came. Beautiful, perfect, irresistible. Odysseus screamed. He begged his crew to untie him, to let him swim to the source of that impossible music. Tears streamed down his face as he fought against the ropes. But his men, deaf to both sirens and captain, rowed on. When the voices finally faded, Odysseus slumped against the mast, exhausted. He had heard truth itself and survived by refusing to reach for it. Ahead lay a narrow strait with no safe passage. On one side churned Charybdis, a whirlpool that swallowed entire ships. On the other lurked Scylla, a six-headed monster in a cliff-side cave, each mouth hungry for human flesh. There was no safe choice, only terrible options. Odysseus steered close to Scylla's lair. 6 heads struck like serpents. 6 men were plucked from the deck, screaming his name as they were lifted into darkness and devoured. Odysseus did not fight. He did not look back. He sailed on. A leader, he learned, sometimes survives by accepting what cannot be saved. Exhausted and traumatized, the crew landed on the island of Helios, the sun god. Sacred cattle grazed there, beautiful, immortal, utterly forbidden. Odysseus warned his men not to touch them, but hunger is stronger than faith. While Odysseus slept, his starving crew slaughtered the sacred cattle and feasted. The gods smelled the cooking meat. Helios demanded vengeance. Zeus himself hurled a lightning bolt from the heavens. The ship exploded. Men were flung into boiling water. Every single one of them drowned. Only Odysseus survived, clinging to wreckage, alone at last, drifting toward an unknown shore. He washed up on Ogygia, an island beyond the edge of the world. There the nymph Calypso found him, beautiful, ageless, lonely. She was a goddess who had been exiled to this paradise, and in Odysseus, she saw companionship she had never possessed. She healed his wounds, fed him, clothed him, and she offered what no mortal had ever been offered: immortality. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Become ageless, never die, never suffer, live forever in perfect peace." It was everything. It was heaven itself. Yet every day, Odysseus sat on the beach and stared at the horizon, his face carved with longing. 7 years passed. 7 years of comfort. 7 years of a goddess's love. 7 years of immortal imprisonment. Finally, the other gods intervened. Athena pleaded with Zeus on Olympus. Calypso was ordered to release him. She obeyed reluctantly, bitterly. She gave Odysseus tools to build a raft, and he sailed away from paradise, naked, mortal, and free. While Odysseus wandered for 20 years, his kingdom decayed. His son Telemachus grew from infant to man without ever knowing his father. The palace of Ithaca filled with suitors, arrogant nobles who devoured Odysseus's wealth, abused his servants, and demanded that his wife Penelope choose a new king. They were vultures circling a throne they believed abandoned. Telemachus lived among them, powerless and mocked, dismissed as a boy, pretending to be a prince. But the goddess Athena appeared to him in disguise and planted a seed of courage. "Your father lives," she told him. "Go seek proof. Become the man he would be proud of." Telemachus sailed to distant kingdoms, meeting kings who had fought at Troy. He heard stories of his father's cunning, his strength, his suffering. And hope, fragile but real, began to grow. Meanwhile, Penelope endured alone. For 20 years, she had refused every suitor with the same promise: she would choose a new husband when she finished weaving a funeral shroud for Odysseus's father. Each day she wove. Each night, in secret, she unraveled her work. Time became her weapon. Patience became her strength. But the suitors grew impatient. They plotted to murder Telemachus. They demanded Penelope make her choice. The kingdom teetered on the edge of collapse. Odysseus finally reached Ithaca, but not as a conquering king. He arrived on a stranger's ship, disguised by Athena as an old beggar, unrecognizable even to those who had known him for decades. He entered his own palace and saw the destruction. Suitors feasted at his table, drank his wine, mocked his memory. One kicked the old beggar, another threw food at him. They laughed while he endured in silence, watching, planning, waiting for the right moment. Only one creature recognized him: his ancient dog, Argos, who had waited 20 years for his master's return. The dog lifted his head, wagged his tail once in recognition, and died. Penelope, desperate and cornered, announced a contest to the suitors. Whoever could string Odysseus's great bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads would become her husband and Ithaca's king. One by one, the suitors tried. Not a single one could even bend the bow. It was a weapon made for a hero, not for parasites who grew fat on another man's wealth. Then the old beggar stepped forward. The suitors mocked him. Penelope watched in tense silence. Odysseus took the bow, his hands scarred and weathered but still strong, and wrapped them around the weapon he had not held in 20 years. The bowstring sang as it was drawn. The arrow flew true, passing through all 12 axes in perfect flight. Silence fell like a curtain. Odysseus threw off his disguise. Telemachus appeared at his side, armed and ready. Together, father and son barred the doors. Then the slaughter began. Arrows flew with deadly accuracy. Swords struck with vengeful fury. The suitors scrambled for weapons that were not there, running like rats in a trap. One by one they fell, not in battle, but in execution. Justice, delayed for 20 years, flooded the hall like a crimson tide. When the killing was done, Odysseus stood before Penelope. 20 years had passed. He was scarred, aged, transformed by suffering. She looked at this stranger wearing her husband's face with cautious, careful eyes. She tested him one final time, commanding servants to move their marriage bed into another room. Odysseus's face changed instantly. "That's impossible," he said. "I built that bed myself from a living olive tree still rooted in the ground. It cannot be moved unless someone cuts through the tree itself. Only the real Odysseus would know this secret." Penelope's careful mask shattered. 20 years of waiting, of doubt, of desperate hope collapsed into certainty. She ran to him. They embraced, not as young lovers reunited, but as survivors of separate wars fought for the same cause. Outside, the families of the dead suitors gathered, seeking vengeance for their sons, but Athena herself descended from Olympus, radiating divine light. Enough, she commanded. Let blood end here. Let Ithaca have peace. The weapons were lowered. The cycle of violence stopped. Odysseus, wanderer, trickster, survivor, king, was finally home. He had lost his fleet, his crew, 10 years of his life wandering seas controlled by angry gods. But he never lost sight of home. And in the end, that made him the greatest hero of all. The journey that should have taken weeks consumed 2 decades. But it ended not with conquest or glory, but with something more valuable. A man returning to the people who loved him, scarred but unbroken. Having learned that the greatest victory is not won on battlefields, but in the simple act of coming home.